Joining us here again at the table, Republican Tim Rosales, Democrat Ed Emerson. A lot happening, so I wanted to jump right into it, but wanted to introduce you guys formally. Thanks for being here. So the first one that we talked about in our newscast tonight was pardoning January 6th. He teased that he was going to do this. What do you think of that move?
Well, Trump is doing exactly what he said he would do. So the president now is, from the border security to January 6th to all of those executive orders. Joe Biden had more executive orders than any other president previously in history. President Trump is, kind of picking up that mantle. He has to undo some of Joe Biden's executive orders with executive orders, and then he's doing some of his own. Certainly we did see the last minute pardons by President Biden,
right,
of his family and some others that came as he went right out the door. So this is presidential prerogative, and you see it on both sides.
Do you think Biden should have done that on his last day? Did that do something to his
legacy?
legacy?
I think he should have pardoned me. I mean, holy mackerel, I'm going to get in so much trouble.
Why are you going to get in trouble, Ed?
Having a pardon hanging out there would be a great thing. Listen, elections matter. Now, Donald Trump's going to do what he's going to do, and it's only going to get worse for Democrats before it gets better. Pardoning the January 6 people is an abomination. These people violently tried to overthrow the government and were convicted at trial and sentenced, and he pardoned them all. It's like this was a joke for him. It's still a joke for him. It's going to get worse. He's going to go in and pick some people out that we find despicable. He's going to pardon them. Tomorrow's going to be another crazy day. I mean, he's got tonight to write out 100 different pardons if he wants to. This is not great days for Democrats. 22 months is the time between now and the next election. 22 months before the congressional midterm elections, and we need to take it back. We need to take the House back and take the Senate back, and that's the only thing Democrats should be for.
The fight for the midterms, you think, starts today?
Absolutely.
What did you think of his speech? Because a lot was made of the last time he was inaugurated, and he talked about, American carnage, and he led his speech today with the golden age of America begins right now, and did tick through, the past 4 years and what he didn't like. Did anything specific stand out to you? Did he hit the notes you think he should have?
Well, I think he set out a pretty bold agenda. It was fairly positive with the things that he had talked about in the campaign. But with that agenda, now you have to deliver. And any president has to, right? When they an inaugural speech, they set out bold ideas. We've seen it before from other presidents when they enter office. For President Trump, this is his second term, but really kind of, he had his first term, then you had the Biden administration, and now you've got the second term, and they're calling it one of the greatest political comebacks, ever. And I think an argument can be made for that, and history, will tell. But the fact is now, starting day one, as Ed said, now it's delivery time, and he's going to have
govern.
And he's going to have to work with the Republican Congress in order to do that. We saw in the first term that didn't necessarily go always the way that the president wanted. However, the Republican Party this time seems a lot more unified than they were back in 2017 during the Trump's first term.
Well, and speaking of unity, I mean, we saw the peaceful transfer of power today. We saw Democrats right there, flanked by the president and his family. And right before we came on air this evening, Marco Rubio was approved unanimously.
Yeah.
I mean, we're seeing it just, I understand that Democrats, this is not the way they wanted it to turn out, but the resistance that was there for Trump the first time doesn't seem to be as intense.
Interesting. The thing is, it's only going to get worse. I've already said that once. But the thing about what Trump is doing right now is he's got a list of stuff and he's just checking boxes, right? The Gulf of Mexico, that's an issue. He brings
the Gulf of America, and Ron DeSantis, the governor of Florida, apparently reports from the press corps in Florida. He's already referring to the Gulf of Mexico as now the Gulf of America if he's giving speeches or putting out statements.
And it doesn't lower the price of eggs, and it doesn't lower the price of milk. It does nothing for the American people, nothing for workers. People are going to find out that this guy, the wind chill factor was what, Adam? Was like 25 below in D.C. today? The emperor has no clothes and he's going to freeze to death. These people are going to start peeling off, these Republicans. that morally we have a convicted felon as the president of the United States, and they need to step away from that sort of discombobulated thievery that is Donald Trump.
But I was at the inauguration 8 years ago.
Yeah.
And it's night and day. I mean, it really is when you talk about the greatest political comeback for a candidate. And,
Right.
and I mean, I envy poli-sci students that are going to be in college at some point studying this campaign and what happened, because it's so interesting. I mean, the resistance isn't there, it seems like. You saw at Jimmy Carter's funeral the viral video of Obama and Trump having a time,
Yeah,
you know?
right.
And it almost was like, wait a minute. I mean, are we sort of have Democrats gone, okay, like he's the president, and let's sort of see what he can do. I know you don't feel that way, but how do you see it?
Well, I see it as the campaign that President Trump ran was a campaign on the issues. And he talked about some of those issues today in the inaugural speech. Drill, baby, drill. Ed talks about the price of eggs and butter and household groceries. Well, one way you do that is by lowering the price of fuel.
And getting goods to places, because then that brings the prices down.
And getting goods to places. So if you can do that, and he talked about there is more natural resources in the United States than anywhere else in the world. We just have to start utilizing them.
And last year we produced more gas, drilled and produced more gas than at any other time in the history of this country.
But for some reason, voters did not tie that to the Biden administration.
That was the grace of their campaign.
And we can do more. And he's getting out of the Paris Climate Accords, and he's doing some of those things. Because when you have things like, you've got natural disasters and emergencies, and he talked about a couple of them. North Carolina. He didn't just talk about Los Angeles and California. He talked about hurricane relief. He talked about North Carolina. He talked about the fires in Los Angeles. So I think you're seeing, again, to your point, a different tone from President Trump. And certainly you look at Marco Rubio as Secretary of State. I mean, that's a huge win on day one, getting your Secretary of State, one of the most important cabinet positions. Approved unanimously.
I mean, I didn't think we could approve unanimously in Congress if the sky's blue at this point, but
Right.
they got it.
Little Marco is going to do a good job as Secretary of State.
Okay, on that note, we're going to take a quick break, because when we come back, I want to talk about the Newsom-Trump relationship now that we have this administration officially sworn in. We're going to take a quick break, have that conversation when we come back.